A society can lose its freedom without anyone officially taking it away. No coup, no dramatic moment. Freedom can erode quietly when people lose the capacity to govern themselves. Because freedom is not just about rights on paper. It's about attention, energy, self-control, empathy, and participation. And when those things decline at scale, people don't need to be controlled. They ask to be taken care of. Here's the argument I want to make. The public health crisis in the West is undermining freedom in two ways. First, internally, by weakening the mental and physical capacities that make individual freedom possible. And second, externally, by increasing dependence, which inevitably expands the size and scope of government. Start with something basic: physical health. Across Western countries, rates of obesity, metabolic disease, and chronic illness have risen dramatically over the past decades. In the United States, over 40% of adults are now obese. Across Europe, a majority of adults are now overweight. This matters not because of aesthetics, but because chronic illness changes how people live. It affects energy levels, mood, sleep, stress, and resilience. A population that is constantly tired, distracted, medicated, and unwell does not behave like a free population. It behaves like a fragile one. Freedom requires the ability to choose, and choice requires attention. But attention is under sustained pressure. Digital environments train constant interruption, endless novelty, instant reward. Research consistently shows associations between heavy screen use and lower well-being, reduced focus, and increased anxiety, especially among younger generations. Even if you ignore the studies, lived experience is obvious. A distracted mind is easier to influence, easier to scare, and easier to exhaust. If you can't hold attention, you can't sustain thought. And without sustained thought, democratic participation becomes shallow, or it even disappears entirely. Freedom is not maintained by force, it's maintained by social trust. That requires empathy. But social life has become thinner. Fewer shared institutions, less civic participation, more isolation, even in crowds. Some research suggests that empathy has declined over time, particularly among younger cohorts. The exact causes are debated, but the direction is clear. When empathy erodes, politics becomes moral combat. Compromise looks like weakness. Opponents become enemies. And when social trust collapses, people stop solving problems together. They outsource them. Strong societies rely on strong civil institutions, clubs, associations, communities, voluntary cooperation. But participation in these institutions has been declining for decades. When people stop organizing locally, the vacuum doesn't stay empty. It gets filled by centralized systems, professionals, administrators, and managers. This isn't a conspiracy, it's structural. Weak civil society means stronger centralized authority. Now the external effect. When a population becomes less healthy, physically and mentally, demand for support increases. Healthcare spending rises, disability claims increase, income support expands. Across Western countries, healthcare already consumes between 10 and 17% of GDP. As health declines, governments don't have the option to do nothing. They intervene. More spending, more regulation, more administrative control. Not because leaders crave power, but because the population cannot function without support anymore. This creates a dependency loop. Poor health increases dependence. Dependence expands systems. Expanded systems reduce individual autonomy. Freedom shrinks, not through force, but through necessity. Freedom is not just a legal arrangement. It's a population-level capability. When health collapses, attention fragments, empathy erodes, and participation declines. And when that happens, freedom doesn't need to be taken. It quietly disappears. Not with a bang, but with exhaustion.